Hello and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Wednesday, April 15th edition of our video devotionals. Thank you so much for joining us today and hope your Wednesday's going well. Now, if you watch these on a regular basis, you know we say the following. It is the middle part of the work week, middle part of the school week. So there you go. You've got one half or one half soon to be accomplished. And then, of course, you have Wednesday evening Bible studies or sermons, whatever the format is, but Wednesday evening church services and to be in your places if you possibly can. And so we're so glad you're with us. And here we are exactly at the halfway point of the month of April. And so time marches on. All right, so we're going to be in the very last chapter of Judges and the very last verse. So this is kind of the conclusion of the matter, as it says over there in the book of Ecclesiastes. But this is kind of the conclusion here at the end of the book of Judges. So find that if you will, Judges 21-25. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Thank you for comments. Thank you for acknowledgments. And then, of course, thank you for praying for folks like those four we asked you to pray for that got baptized. I do believe people, anybody that's making decisions. Look, if you were in church Sunday and you saw people go forward to make decisions, and I realize people can make decisions without going forward into church. But I appreciate people who get up out of their pew, they walk down during an altar call and make some kind of decision for the Lord. Look, those are the ones that the devil is going to really try to harass and try to make little of the decision or try to make them feel bad about whatever. So the point is we need to pray for people that's going forward. I know we've got a lot of folks we probably pray for that are in great need because they are maybe unfaithful, they've got things going on in their life, they're dealing with some sinful practice, whatever it might be. But you know what, there is a group of people that I think that don't get prayed for enough, and that's those who's going forward. And we need to pray for them to keep going forward and to be encouraged, to be helped. And so there's that. All right, so Judges 21-25, here's a phrase that we've emphasized, but here's the very last statement made in the book of Judges. And the book of Judges covers about 400 years of period of time, about 400 years, in which these folks were brought up to help Israel out of these bad situations. So we end here in verse 25 with this statement. In those days there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. You know, when you look at that, of course, there's no authority. And when there's no authority anywhere, there is problems, there's chaos. There always has to be somebody that makes the decision. Now, obviously, it should be the right decision. But one of the problems with not having the authority is everybody trying to make a decision, everybody trying to implement that decision. And that's why God says there is an authority. There's an authority in almost everything in life. And in this case, in the nation of Israel, there was no king, there was no authority at that time. So what was happening? Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. So the ultimate authority is one who, of course, says, we're going to do what God said to do, and I'm going to be here to make sure that happens. And that's the great authority, okay? So when you look at this, you've got these people saying, you know what, I'm going to do right in my own eyes. Well, the authority says, well, that's not the way to do it. Just because someone says, I want to do right, and maybe even sincerely says that doesn't make it right. You know, there's people that may sincerely follow false religions and false gods and even sincerely follow themselves into thinking that if I'm just a good person, that I'm going to be heaven-bound one day and my good will cancel out my wrong and bypass the fact that they've got to come to Jesus as a sinner to be saved, to have all their sins forgiven, to be placed in the family of God, to receive the new birth, the Spirit of God within them. So the point is, a lot of people say, I want to do right, and I'm going to try to do right. But you know what? Just because you're doing right in your own eyes doesn't make it right. And that's the big problem, because we say, well, if everybody was doing that which was wrong in their own eyes, then, you know, of course you'd say, well, they're wanting to do wrong. But here's people attempting to do right, and yet their right is not right. Their right is wrong because there's no authority. In this case, that stands up and says, the authority is God. God's put me in this place to lead and to guide in that direction, and I'm going to make the decisions, and we're going to go the right way. So when you look at this, doing right in your own eyes doesn't mean you're doing right. If you happen to do right in your own eyes and you're following a leader who's doing right, and in your own eyes it's the Bible, that's one thing. But just because someone says, I'm going to do right and I'm sincere in that, doesn't make it right, because that's from your viewpoint, not God's viewpoint. And that's why God has given us leaders, has given us authorities so that we can indeed do that. All right, going to stop right there. Have a great day, safe day, healthy day. Lord willing, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll either be in the book of Ruth or we'll be, I think, somewhere in the book of Luke. So Ruth or Luke, either one. It'll be great either way. Have a great day.